Hello everybody, Lotu for Life here, bringing you guys a brand new deck profile. This time around is Pure Kaiju. Pure Kaiju is a lot of fun. I think people overlook it because they think, oh, it's this one monster on another. But it's actually a lot of fun, especially if you have an active imagination. But anyways, this deck, it's really fun. It's kind of a defensive, offensive deck. It's very hard to explain, but it can do defensive and offensive strategies very easily, especially if you have a mix of both, if you have Jizukiro out and stuff. So I'm gonna shut up and stop blabbering and let's get on to the actual deck profile. 3 Jizukiros. This guy, he is your main one that you want to go for. He is a 3300 beat stick who basically stops any card effect from targeting for the measly cost of 3 Kaiju counters, and then you get to pop a card on the field. Now, the nice thing about him is that he stops any card effect that targets anything, anywhere. So, oh hey, your opponent activates Monster Reborn. Oh hey, you can negate that, pop a card. Your opponent activates, I don't know, Sur effect, targets a Burning Abyss in your graveyard, negate that effect, pop a card. It is really, really good, and he is just able to stop everything. If your opponent is playing Pepe or something, and you got a good 6 or 9 counters, anywhere from anywhere in that area, out on your field, you can basically just stop everything your opponent tries to do. Oh, they try to Ignister, they target their Pendulum, negate that effect, pop a card. It's basically very, very simple, and I love this card a lot. So next up is 3 Dagaron. This guy is Godzilla! But obviously they can't use actual Godzilla, which kind of sucks. So this guy, he's a 3k beat stick, level 8. Basically, he just uses 3 Kaiju counters to pop all monsters your opponent controls, and then he cannot attack that turn. Now, the nice thing about this is that destroying all monsters your opponent controls will usually put more Kaiju counters onto Kyoto Waterfront, which is very nice, but however, you still gotta use 3 Kaiju counters to do it, which sucks. Since he can't attack, I don't know why they put that in there, because he's a 3k, he's gonna be your only monster out unless you're the Kaiju's Book of Moon or something. And really, honestly, he could have been able to still attack, but no, Konami is, I don't know, worried about balancing issues for a deck that focuses on one monster at a time. Next up, I play 3 Radion. This guy, he's pretty good. His effect is nice. He can get out tokens that are basically copies of himself. 2,800 tokens, he's 28. The only issue is that you usually don't use him. You usually give him to your opponent because he can be beat over by almost everything that you can summon. However, if you do ever use him on your side of the field, he's very good. He gets out more tokens, can put out 5,600 damage, and excuse me, and he's just a very good beat stick, really. Next up is Kumongus, the Sticky String Kaiju. This thing is basically, it's kind of like a walking Phoenix chain. Whenever your opponent, normal or special summons a monster, you can remove 2 Kaiju counters, if I remember correctly, to negate that monster's effects and prevent it from attacking, which is very, very good. That effect only lasts until the end of the turn, but it's still very, very nice. And oh hey, your opponent tries to summon out Skokerbat and use its effect to surge. Nope. It's a very good monster, but however, again, like Radion, you usually don't use its effect because you're giving it to your opponent because it's one of the weaker ones and you can beat over it with one of the big ones. Next up is Gameciel. This one is one of the ones that is seeing a lot of play, and that's because he's the weakest, yet he also has one of the strongest effects. You can remove 3 Kaiju counters from anywhere. Is it 3 or 2? 2 Kaiju counters from anywhere on the field to basically just negate any card effect and banish that card, which is very, very good. Next up, I play 2 Thunder King, the Lightning Strike Kaiju. This is one of the newer ones. I only play 2 because, well, you don't really want him very often. You want Jizukiro. This guy's better for ending the game and stuff. Basically what he does is you remove 3 Kaiju counters from anywhere on the field, and he can attack 3 of your opponent's monsters once each, or 3 monsters. You can make 3 attacks on monsters during that turn, and for the rest of the turn your opponent cannot activate cards or effects. He's 3,300, so he can push out a lot of damage, but again, he is only really good for late game and ending the game. Next up is, oh god, how can I, okay, Godarla. What was it? the Mystery Dust Kaiju, basically a Mothra. This one is another one you usually give to your opponent, but however, it's also good for your side because basically what it does is you remove a few counters and then you reduce everything else on the field by half. All attack and defense, all monsters for everybody else by half. And then you just poke over, and it can get over any other Kaiju, which is very obnoxious if you give it to your opponent and they know that they can use it. And then finally, for the Kaijus, two of the, oh dear god, Super Anti-Kaiju War Machine Mecha Doggeron. This thing is very interesting. You cannot give it to your opponent because that's what it says. You can't trip it off a monster on your opponent's side of the field. But if they have a Kaiju, you can summon out to your side of the field and attack or defense. And basically remove 3 Kaiju counters and then equip a Kaiju monster from either your hand or your graveyard onto him, and he gains that monster's attack power. And he can do this multiple times over a few turns. You can only do it once per turn, but however, theoretically, if you equip 3 Doggeron onto him, you can get him to 9,000 attack power, which is very, very, very good. Now, here is something that not many people know, okay? You can, if you activate Interrupted Kaiju Slumber, you can give this to your opponent, because that's the only current way to give it to your opponent. And, oh hey, look at that, they have a 0 attack point monster, attack for 3,300. It is he's a very good card. I like him, and also he's one of the cooler looking Kaijus. Actually, no, they're all cool looking, but I don't know, just like the glowy parts on him make him look cooler. He's a very good monster, generally speaking, but I don't really see myself using his effect very often. Just more so giving him to my opponent for Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. And then finally, 2 Silent Wobbies. Now you're probably wondering, why am I playing Silent Wobby? Well, if you guys don't know, you can spell summon this card to your opponent's side of the field during your main phase, and then your opponent, the now controller of the card, gets to draw a card, and then you gain 2,000 life points. So you basically give it to your opponent. The reason being is that if somebody knows you're playing Kaijus, they're gonna be kind of iffy on wanting to summon out a monster. So, oh hey, just spell summon this to your opponent's side of the field, trip it off a Kaiju for a Kaiju, and then summon out a Kaiju on your side of the field. He's pretty good just for that. And also, hey, you get 2,000 life points back in this deck. It kind of needs that sometimes. Alrighty, that's it for the monsters. Lots of monsters. First and foremost, 3 Kyoto Waterfront for the spells. This card, I can't even tell you how integral this card is for the deck. You need it, like, so fast. You need it ASAP. And basically, every time a card on the field is sent to the graveyard, this gets a Kaiju counter on it, max of 5. If it has 3 or more, you can add a Kaiju monster from your deck to your hand once per turn, which is very, very good. It's your main way of getting Kaiju counters. Next up, I play 3 Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. This card basically it nukes the board, only monsters. So there needs to be at least 1 monster on the field, and then you get a Kaiju on your side of the field, and your opponent gets a Kaiju on their side of the field, and they must attack if able. Additionally, if this card is in your graveyard, you can banish it, search out a Kaiju, which is very, very, very good. And it just is a really good card. It is basically a dark hole, but 100 times better. Next up, 3, the Kaiju Files. This is one of the new Kaiju cards. This card, basically, every time a Kaiju monster is supposed to summon from the hand to either side of the field, this gets a Kaiju counter on it. Max of 5. And you can send it with 3 or more, if I remember right. Once per turn, you can target 1 Kaiju monster on the field, destroy that monster, then spell summon a Kaiju monster with a different original name from your deck to its controller's field. You can send this card with 3 or more Kaiju counters to the graveyard, add a Kaiju spell trap card from your deck to your hand, except itself. So basically, oh hey, your opponent has a Kaiju and you no longer want them to have that Kaiju, you can destroy it and spell summon a Kaiju with a different name from your deck. And basically, if it has 3 or more, you can send it to graveyard, search out either Interrupted Kaiju Slumber or the Kaiju Capture mission. It's a very good card. You don't really use that last effect very often because you just want it for those Kaiju counters, but however, it's a lot slower than Kyoto Waterfront, which kind of sucks. Now for the spell cards I play 2 of. I play 2 Kaiju Coliseum. I thought about playing 3, but I like 2 for consistency issues. This card basically, it limits your opponent to having as many monsters as you do. So you have 1 monster, they can only have 1 monster. It slows your opponent's decks down to where they are forced to play at your level. However, this does become a prime MST target, which is very, very annoying. Speaking of MST, I played 2 of that. There's not very much stuff you want to discard in here, so I played this over Twin Twister. Although you could also play Twin Twister, I just generally don't like playing it in this deck because then you lose out on your Kaijus and you don't really want to discard those. Now for the cards I play one of. One trade-in, because again, same reason as before, I don't really like discarding my Kaijus, and most of the level 8 ones are really, really good. Yeah, one left arm offering. People are probably like, what? Okay, so this card, if you guys don't know, if there are 2 more cards in your hand other than this card, you can activate this card, banish all cards in your hand, and then add any spell card from your deck to your hand. You cannot set spell or trap cards during the turn that you activate this, but you can still activate spell and trap cards. So like you activate your Kyoto, you activate your Kaiju, X-Files, and then you activate this card, which you then banish your 2 cards in your hand, probably going to be 2 Kaiju, and then you add Interrupted Kaiju Slumber from your deck to your hand. Which is what I usually use it to do, is search out Interrupted Kaiju Slumber, because that is just it's such a quick and easy way to do it. And you can also grab anything else you want, so you can even grab Kyoto Waterfront, you can grab Trade-In, you can grab MST, Kaiser Coliseum, doesn't matter what, you can grab whatever you want. And while I don't like usually discarding my stuff, it's generally speaking, if you do use this card, you're not going to have very many cards in your hand. So it's kind of a win-win, and you're getting an Interrupted Kaiju Slumber out off of it, which is a broken spell card. So I see it as a win-win. 1 day apiece because, well, just being able to draw a card and not have to suffer battle damage. Usually we want to do this main phase 2. And then 1 Terraforming, search out at Kyoto Waterfront. I never really had much of an issue with getting to Kyoto Waterfront, so I only play 1 Terraforming. That's it for the spells. And now for the traps. 3, remove Brainwashing. Basically what this does is all monsters on the field that are like controlled by a different player than who their original controller is, goes back to their original player. So you troop it off a Kaiju to your opponent's side of the field, immediately after it gets summoned, it goes back to your side of the field. Which is very, very, very good. Very good card. The only issue I have with it is that the golds warp like crazy. So yeah, if you have the original commons, play those instead, but the golds warp like crazy. I don't know if that's just me or something. I don't really see it very much either. Like I've only ever seen it like once or twice, which sucks. And then finally, for the last of the 3 traps, I play 3 Kaiju capture missions. 2 reasons. First and foremost, just simply to get more ways to have more Kaiju counters, and also being able to book them in my opponent's Kaijus is very, very nice. The other reason being is that Twin Twister and MST are used a lot these days, and so being able to just trick my opponent into destroying this, thinking that, oh, it might be something more deadly, and then I get to draw 2 cards. So yeah, if you guys didn't know, Kaiju Capture Mission, if it's destroyed by your opponent's card effect, you get to draw 2 cards, which is really, really, really good. So, oh hey, your opponent goes to try and destroy your Kyoto Waterfront, and this, oh hey, you get to draw 2 cards. It is so good, and I love it. So guys, that's the deck profile. Tell me what you guys think. I love this deck a lot. Please leave any suggestions you have in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. If it's your birthday, happy birthday, and see you guys later. Peace out.